Hello everyone, this is Keith of 2CABP.C, and today's topic is about getting a personal baseball trainer, starting at the Little League level, high school level, college level, and into the professional baseball level. Let me just say this: starting at the Little League level. Oh, before I get into getting a personal baseball trainer, I'd like to answer a question that is being asked of me by many parents that ask me, what is the right age to start playing baseball? My answer to that question to the parents will be age 4. And many of you would say, why age 4? The reason why I say age 4, because this is the time period in Little League years, baseball, where Little League players are just beginning to develop what I call their gross baseball motor skills. These skills are skills where they learn to hit, run, catch, throw, and talk all at the same time. Now, let's get back to the topic at hand of getting a personal baseball trainer. Now, I recommend getting a personal baseball trainer starting at the Little League level. And I know that many individuals will disagree with this idea of getting training at such a young age, but I would somewhat beg to differ of that because here's the problem that I have with that. Little League players who don't get the training starting at the Little League level, once they enter the high school arena of baseball, what happens, they find themselves sitting on the bench because the players that had gotten the training during their Little League years all the way through and up until they got into high school is a much polished baseball player than those players who did not get the training. So therefore, those players could compete at the high school level because they did get that training during their Little League years. So getting the training during Little League years is very important. And I also would have to ask the question is then, why is it that Major League Baseball players still get training? And the reason being is because they know that they need to be on the top of their game and to help them get through whatever the situation may be. So getting that training at the Little League level, I highly recommend Little League parents getting that training for their sons and daughters for that matter. Now, I understand that the cost of getting this training is going to be somewhat expensive. And from what I can understand, getting this training is cost a parent anywhere from $45 an hour to $100 an hour. But here's what I say to parents who cannot afford to get this training on a monthly basis is to, if you can't afford to take your son to get a particular set of training, whether it be hitting, catching, throwing, infielding, outfielding, whatever the situation may be, whatever the type of training that you're seeking to get for your son, what I highly recommend you do is, what I see many parents do is they will come to the training and drop off their son with the instructor and then leave. That is the number one wrong thing to do. What I recommend that parents do is when you come to the training to get the instruction for your son is that you stay and watch what is being taught by the instructors. That way you can go home and work with your son in the backyard. And as time go on, you can master what he's being taught, and then you will not have to continue to pay the fee on a monthly basis to the instructor. You can now go home and work with your son in the backyard on those mechanics that is being taught to your son or daughter. So I highly recommend that you do get the training for your son and your daughter. Now, let's move on from Little League and get into the high school arena. And the same thing applies in the high school arena. And like I said before, many of these Little League kids will not be able to compete if they don't get the training. They will not be able to compete at the high school level. And once they get to the high school level, the training needs to continue on through high school, because once they get to high school, the coaches are going to be able to recognize polished players or players that have gotten some type of training. They're going to be able to recognize those players. And in many cases, coaches don't have time for players that come from Little League into high school and try to help develop that talent. Even though coaches may spend time with the other players, the players that's going to make up the bulk of the team or the starting squad is basically going to be the players that the coaches spend time with and developing and getting the reps to round out his team. So that's why it's important for little leaguers to get training, that they move into the next level, they're trained. Now, the same thing applies when these high school kids move into the college arena. The only difference between the high school and college arena is that college coaches or scouts look for polished players. And these players are typically players that has been trained. These players has been trained from the time that they started Little League Baseball all the way through high school. And then by the time they reach the level of going to college, they are pretty much polished to some degree. And that's what college coaches look for, is those polished players. So I highly recommend also when your sons are in high school that they continue to get the training necessary to compete. Now, I want to say this. There are some coaches out here that are doing some extraordinary things with some Little League players. And I want to say I have a friend of mine that is down in Mobile, Alabama. His name is Lance Johnson. He's an ex-Major League Baseball player, and he happened to be my friend. And I went down to Mobile, Alabama some years ago to meet with Lance. And Lance is doing some extraordinary things with teaching kids the fundamentals of baseball on hitting, running, throwing, and catching. And I was very excited and pleased to have met Lance and was able to see the kind of things that he was doing. Now, let me just say one other thing. There's also two individuals that are in Spring, Texas. And I like to say that because this gentleman name is Charlie Hayes. Charlie Hayes is also an ex-Major League Baseball player. And man, Charlie Hayes and Mike Jackson, another ex-Major League Baseball player. These individuals are really, really doing some extraordinary things with some kids. I have never seen nothing like it in my life. And the one thing that I want to recommend to anyone that's in that Spring, Texas, Tomball, Texas area to highly look up these gentlemen, because they are doing some extraordinary things. And the reason why I know this for a fact is because they work with my grandson, and that's him right there on that picture that you see just behind me. And they are doing some extraordinary things with him, and I'm excited about seeing him grow and develop and become a teenager and getting an opportunity to see him play at the high school level and the college level. Now, I don't want to forget a gentleman by the name of Jesse Barfield. Jesse Barfield, I know you've heard that name several times. Jesse Barfield is also an ex-Major League Baseball player. He's also doing some extraordinary things with some kids down at Legend, down here off of I-45. That's where Jesse Barfield, you can find him there, also doing some extraordinary things. Now, I don't want to leave out anybody, and all I'm doing is making these recommendations to parents to go out and try and find someone to teach your son the proper way of playing baseball. And that's what they're going to need if they intend to make this a career. Now, I want you to understand that not everybody who plays baseball can teach baseball. And that's one thing that I have found out, is that not everyone who played baseball can teach baseball. And that's whether it be Major League Baseball, college baseball, or amateur baseball. The fact is that you have to find someone that you believe in that can teach your son how to play this game the right way. And that's what it's all about, playing the game the right way. So with that being said, let me move on to some other things as it relates to getting training in baseball. And is that it goes back to college baseball. let's talk about college baseball a little bit, because we know now that if you got the training, if you're polished, that this is what the high school coaches look for, this is what the college coaches look for. And here's what I have verified and looked at for quite some time. About 98% of all D1 college baseball players who receive a baseball scholarship to college have gotten some type of baseball training starting at the little league level, and most of these players are the best in the country, and they are some of the most polished players. Now, these players who get this training, it's they are different from players that don't get the training. Don't be misled by this, and don't be. Baseball has a very small window, and those players who are polished players get the opportunity because of what scouts see when they come to recruit that player. There's something that they see in that player that makes those players a prospect. So don't be fooled by hearing people say that you don't need to be trained, you don't need to do this, you don't need to do that. Well, I beg the difference. Let me just say this, and then I'm going to shut it down. There's two major league players at the present time by the name of Carl Crawford of the Boston Red Sox and Michael Barnes of the Atlanta Braves. Both of these individuals, whom I know personally and train and help to train as little leaguers, I would like to say that these players are still training with ex-major leaguers, or getting the training that they need during the off season to stay on top of the game. And I'm excited to have had the opportunity to work with both Crawford and Barnes. So with that being said, let me just say this. On my website, I've created my website to be interactive, where individuals can go to my site, and there's a box that you will find. That box will say something like create your own web page. And in that box, you just start typing in your title, and you can put in all sorts of things like whatever you think about your baseball experience, as well as pictures. And then you can take that page and you can send it to share it with all your friends and family. And then those friends and family can also go to my site and create their own pages. And that's why I made it interactive, so that you can communicate back and forth about any baseball topic or issue. Again, thanks for coming to 2CABPC.com. See you at the top.